Joining me now is Sourabh Gupta. He's a Senior International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-American Studies. Sourabh, great to see you. Looking at this legislation that's just been passed, what would the practical impact of this legislation be, firstly, on the relationship between the US and China, and secondly, on the protests in Hong Kong?
On the US-China relationship, I think from a practical standpoint, there will not be much change. Already there is the Hong Kong Policy Act, which mandates that the State Department make these sort of evaluations whether one country, two systems is still holding. So fundamentally, this law adds a little bit more, but it really doesn't change much on that front. It is on the protest side where I think it's obviously been very important symbolically for the protesters. But at the same time, I think the moment has come. The protesters have won victories, and the time has come to go back to the negotiating table and speak with the Hong Kong government in a more civil framework.
And looking at the special status, United States businesses have reaped many benefits from this special status. In 2018, trade was worth just over $67 billion, and the US actually enjoys a surplus with Hong Kong, $33 billion. So could it, in one sense, be self-defeating?
It could be self-defeating, but at the end of the day, if it really doesn't have that much of a practical impact, it's not really going to impact trade per se. Obviously, Hong Kong gets certain privileges with regard to certain items, technology items, etc., which you cannot sell on the mainland because the mainland is under the entities list, Commerce Department's entities list. And those sales can be made in Hong Kong. And the idea being that suppose one country, two system does not hold in the US's view, then Hong Kong will be lumped in the same basket as China. But to be frank, ever since the protests broke out, China's conduct with regard to one country, two systems has been exemplary. And I can understand in July US having anxieties of what China might do in Hong Kong. 5 months down the line, China has been very, very patient, frankly.
Well, Beijing is furious. They've responded. They call this, quote, severe interference in the internal affairs of China. Does China have a point there?
Yes, China, of course, has a point out here. But we've seen this is not the first time that the US has intervened in a country's domestic affairs. And it's not going to be the last time. And frankly, I know China is very upset on this issue because of this interference. But frankly, I would say, the arms which have been sold out, which are going to be sold to Taiwan, the decision was made, I think, in April or May. That is much, much more grave than what's passed with regard to Hong Kong. But obviously, Hong Kong is just aggravating the anger at China's end.
China's also threatening what it terms countermeasures. How can China retaliate?
One of the ways China can retaliate, it will hurt itself to some extent, is just string out this trade deal negotiations a little longer. Donald Trump now needs the trade deal more than the Chinese. Both sides do need it, and the Chinese do want to go and secure phase one. But let this slip beyond December 15th. Let Donald Trump make the decision on December 15th whether those tariffs remain suspended or not. And so it's those sort of issues. But again, coming back to, I talked about the Taiwan Act. Out there are companies which can be materially sanctioned because they sell to Taiwan. In Hong Kong, you don't have that sort. This act doesn't incriminate any particular companies per se. So I don't know what the countermeasures are going to be in this instance.
Sourabh Gupta, thanks so much for being with us.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.